How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game that has been in early access for the past year or so, but is looking at a May release called Judgement Apocalypse Survival Simulation, which might be a mouthful, and I personally think it should be shortened, but that's just me. The game is about basically like a little 2D simulation survival tactics game. Now, like I've said before, this game is currently in early access, so things could change upon release, but we're going to go over the game as it exists currently. I'm gonna click new game, and you'll see we'll start off with 4 different difficulty levels. By default, the 4th one is custom, so but by default you'll start at challenging difficulty level. Now, I've played this game for about 6 hours total, and I played it on forgiving, a bit of a compromise. They say challenging, they expect to lose the first few attempts, and given the fact that this game is fairly long, each attempt is going to take you a few hours usually to lose it, I figured that I would try to get as far into the game as possible before sort of giving my first impressions on it, and therefore I played forgiving. So we're just going to do that again. You can have the option to show tutorials. Let's do that. Click start. Now, here is where we will be presented with a pretty classic screen. These are your characters that you're going to go into the game with. Now, names, the character profiles. Apparently, oh yeah, you can click the little gear icon, and here you can tweak a lot of stuff. Like if you look at the color picker, you actually get the entire color palette. Look at that. So a lot of color options when it comes to the character selection. Far more than I expected normally. And then they also have various different strengths, let's call them. I wouldn't go so far as to call them classes, because they're too bland for it to qualify as a class. But what they do is they give you various different traits and upgrade trees starting from there. So in other words, if you are a survivalist, your upgrade tree is going to look a bit different than if you're an occultist, for example, or an engineer. If you don't like what you got here, you can roll the dice again, but we're not going to do that. We're going to click start, and the game is going to generate. You'll notice that here there was sort of a lack of a loading screen, but it gets done. We have a bit of a story here, and we begin by needing to build a log cabin with a food table and a bed. So let's just click that off. The tutorial, I did enable it, so you'll see these screens pop up from time to time explaining how the game works, but I'm basically going to do that for you. So on the top of the screen, you have missions, your base inventory. This is basically the food that you have, not just the food, the resources that you have in your base at the time. I'm going to pause this to make sure nothing happens. Right, so the first mission, of course, is to sort of build a cabin. We have a couple of different log cabins available here. They look like that. If you zoom all the way out on the map, you can sort of get a better sense of perspective. And once you unpause the game, your settlers, colonists, whatever you want to call it, they will automatically start doing stuff. We can tell them, though, to do specific tasks like cut trees. This log cabin is already built, so let's go ahead and populate it. We're going to need an experiment table to complete research. We're also going to need a bed so that our colonists can sleep on there. What else would be prudent to build? Probably a workbench as well. As you can see right now, one of our colonists was currently working on the research. And what research does, we have a research tree right here. Definitely an area of the game I think could be improved. There's quite a bit of horizontal scrolling, which I like. Does it really need to be this big? Not only is it horizontal, it's also horizontal and vertical. But overall, it works. And that's where we do most of our research. We're looking at different technology there. It unlocks a whole bunch of stuff, and we'll get into that later. But that's basically the beginning of the game. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually quit to the main menu again. And we're going to go ahead and load up a game that I'd previously been working on for, like I said, about 6 hours. Oh, wait, that was not what I was looking for. Let's try that again. We're actually looking for a game save. Game 2. There it is. So right here is the game that I'm currently working on. And as you can see, the settlement has progressed quite nicely. We have several fields down. We're working on research in several different research stations as well as some of the occult research. Rather ominous, but you know, it's a little bit different from what you usually have. We have our vegetable farms. That's a wheat farm here. Vegetable farms, wheat farms, sheep farms. I have a lot of vegetable farms to keep my population fed. What else is there? Well, we have a ton of settlers, survivors. I don't know what they refer to these as, but basically how the flow of the game sort of works is you have sort of been witness to the end times. So the apocalypse basically is upon you, and you start out as a colony of 3 individuals, and your colony grows as you can go to the main map, and you'll see here, this is basically the map of the surrounding area. From time to time, you'll see a mission on here that another colonist, another survivor, I guess we could call them, is in need of help and would be willing to join you if you rescue them. So from this map, you know, the game is actually playing in the background right now, but from this map we can do quests and missions and stuff. A lot of these, you can see the key on the right side of the screen, a lot of these missions involve fighting, but you can also scavenge, which actually depends upon how you do it. Like, if we do to scavenge this house right here, you can see the enemies on the left side. We have a couple of reapers, some imps, and some demons. The loot that we get from it is medicine. And when we decide to go ahead and scavenge for that, you get to choose the team you want to send along. Now, by and large, I've just been sending a large military squad in there. And you'll see a lot of different weapons, a lot of different weapon variety you can equip, gear as well as armor. But supposedly you can also do it without a large military. And that means that you would not be fighting, but instead you would be sending in more stealthy scout-like units. You can speed the game up to ×8 speed, which definitely speeds those slower moments up there when you're waiting for your units to traverse the screen. It should be noted that while they're traversing the screen, the game continues playing in the background, but once you get to the mission itself, the game, like the base game, has paused, so you don't have to worry about being attacked at base while you're working on these missions and stuff. So this is a scavenge mission, as I've mentioned, and there are several different sort of locations that you can scavenge. The maps, the layouts for them will generally be the same. I'm not exactly sure what this one's called, but like there's the industrial layout, there is urban layout. You sort of get the idea. They'll have different sort of obstacles set up and whatnot. And this is really one of the more tactical parts of the game. So let's pause for a minute here and take a look at what's going on. Luckily, you can pause. Now we have some different units here. Now, for sake of convenience and just making it overall easier for me to understand it, the green ones are ranged units. So we actually want to get those behind cover, like those barrels right there. So if I put one there and, well, apparently one of these units is set. No? Okay. I'm not exactly sure why one won't go there. Not because there's no easy to discern tiles to the game, so sometimes it can be a little bit tricky figuring out where to put the units and where they're going to go. So let's do that. Unpause it and you'll see the archer or the ranged units went up there. And let's get some of the melee units to engage here. And hopefully they'll hold off the imps and the demons and stuff. And we don't want them to attack the ranged units. Yes, that's actually bad. Okay, it looks like Ross took a beating, but we won that altercation. And you can heal if you have a little packet of healing goodness with you. I forget, it's like a first aid kit. And now, when it comes to these units, you can see some of them have shields. So in other words, when I'm next to these barrels, I have like half of a shield of defense, which is nice, but a lot of the time I've found I've actually not been able to make very good use of the cover. Like if we stand next to this barrel, for example, you would have some defense. So now you can see, here come some more units, a reaper and an imp. If I stand out here, now they've spotted me. They do have like a aggro range, so you can easily, well, maybe not easily, but you can tell usually when they'll be within aggro range or not. So here we go. The Reaper is actually, whoa, we actually want to stay away from that, I think. The Reaper is a unit that can attack you from range. which means you probably don't want to just stand there and take a beating from them. Okay, we took quite a beating, but we survived. And that is one way that you can get all of the loot, is simply by killing all of the enemies that occupy that territory. Another way to do it was actually to be more stealthy and to find the loot cases that are in that level and then clear those out. And personally, I've not been able to do this because I think the timer that is on the containers should not reset, but maybe we can take a look at that a little bit later. We will do another mission like that, because that's what this game consists a lot of, is doing missions such as those. So now that we are back at home, you see the team took some damage. We can heal them up here in the infirmary. Simply select heal. We don't have a whole lot of medicines, so probably want to ration this out a little bit more. Something like that. So that'll heal most of them, most of the way, so I can get back into the game with it. We can just speed that up until the healing is done. There isn't a whole lot of micromanagement you have to do. You could if you wanted to, but it's not required. This character is tired, and is somebody on both of the beds? I think I only have 2 beds. Yeah, so they need to sleep, but... Oh, she's fine. Yeah. They all need to sleep, but by and large I've found you only need a couple of beds to cater towards upwards of 10 people, so it's usually not too big of an issue. So now that our units are as healed as they're going to be for now, they also heal over time. Let's go back to the map and see if we can do another mission. Try to find something relatively easy. Hellhounds are going to be fast. Here we go. We got minor demons and imps. This is relatively simple. Let's go ahead and try to scavenge that. And maybe this time we'll just send 1 unit. Like, I don't have to send an entire squad. Sending an entire squad is going to be more costly than sending 1 unit. Because, for example, take a look at sending this fighter. It's only going to cost me 2 salad. You can't change that for some reason. Like, it's always going to be salad, it seems like. Even though there are alternative food types. So, really don't get that. It seems to disproportionately favor salad. But if we choose only 1 unit, it's going to cost us 2. If we choose 2, it's going to 4, 6, and it keeps going up. So the bigger the unit size that you send over there to scavenge, the more it's going to cost you. And the further away it is, the more it's going to cost you as well. So if we wanted to scavenge this and we send 1 unit to do that, it's going to cost 4 salads. So just moving that extra distance is costing double the amount of resources to do it. Right. So where was the, here it is. This is the one I wanted to do. Let's go ahead and use the fighter. Yeah. Got a leather jacket for armor, got a Glock pistol for a gun, and we'll send her over there to take care of that. And this time we're going to try a more stealthy mission. Now, I've never actually completed the entire mission stealthily, so this will be interesting. This is like a first test to see if this can actually be done. Because in the past, when I've sort of tried scavenging, one problem that I always ran into was the fact that, well, the timer on the scavenge resets every time you leave. So if enemy units come patrolling, like right here is something I can scavenge. And the thing is, if the enemy units come patrolling around that area, I'll have to leave. And then that means that the timer is reset. So, let's go for it. I'll try it once. Oh, we got some units patrolling already. So, I mean, this is the thing. I'd have to try to stay out of their range. Right now, they can't see me. But I have no idea where they're going to go. And this is a neat little bug that I found. You can actually click on them before they go out of your range. And you'll notice where they are. I think. Like, okay, that one started coming back. Whoa. Get that amp. Select it. Okay. I want to see if it keeps moving when it gets out of range. Yeah, so basically, you can sort of minesweep for enemy units doing that. Yeah, it works, yeah. Okay, so you'll see all these units patrolling around, and it's just very difficult to actually scavenge anything, because your progress is reset every time they come back around again. So right now I'm scavenging. Obviously, the better upgraded your unit is, the faster you'll be able to pull this off, but I think they're going to come around again before I can finish this. You can only double the speed. Like, we can play it at ×2 the speed that it would normally play at, but not ×8 when you're in these missions. And we might actually get away with this. Yeah, so I got 76 wood from that. Managed to successfully scavenge there. Maybe we'll just retreat now, just to give you an idea. So we can hit the retreat button and we'll be leaving the area. And as you can see, we got 76 wood. Didn't get any kills, which means we didn't get any experience, but it also meant it didn't cost me any health. And health can be a bit of a fickle thing to keep up. The medicine is not plentiful at the moment, so it helps. Okay, we got a level here, and this sort of goes into the leveling system that I was talking about. The units, all of them have different attributes, but by and large, they feel too watered down. Like, I wish the different classes had more of a significant impact on what you chose. It doesn't appear to do that. So we're level 3 now. Previously, I chose Farming 1 for 30% farming speed and Wielder of damage for the occult weapons. You can also choose Farming Yield, and we can build a consecrated. I'm not a consecration. Some of this stuff is quite cryptic, so don't expect a whole lot of hand holding going through here. Just going to do Farming Yield. Hopefully that turns out to be a better investment long run. It's much less specific, much more broad, because we have a lot of farms here. So having a skill in that area probably will come into use more often than something as vague as consecrated. Consecrated, what's it called? Yeah. So that is the mission portion of the map. You'll be doing a lot of missions. You'll be scavenging, fighting the enemies. Occasionally you'll see quests like that come up, and basically they'll have little things that you usually have to do. Like this is witchcraft. That one's actually not something I can affect. So they're working a lot slower because of it though, and we can't do a whole lot about it. Usually there's like an alternative. You can spend some resources to do it, which helps encourage you to stockpile resources in case of such an inevitability. What else do we have? Well, you already saw the build menu. That's how we build buildings in the world. Research tree. The research tree, as I mentioned before, I think could be better optimized. You can see I did some fairly decent progress here, but to me it just feels too disjointed. Like the categories are not clear. Like why, for example, does woodworking turn into colony defense? Shouldn't that be in like a defense category? And then you have stuff like you're here is farming, and then ultimately farming turns into alchemy weapons. And then at the same time, you have water conservation branch instead of having it be as part of the farming or like part of a food branch. And then there's a lot of scrolling from side to side, and the fact that the screen moves, like even if you just touch it slightly, it's going to keep moving like that. It made me feel a little bit dizzy. So I think the research screen could be improved for sure. Just maybe reorganize the tree in such a way that it would make more sense. Like have actual branches labeled. Like, okay, this is going to be the melee weapons branch. This is going to be defense weapons, or not defense weapons, but a defense category for defending the colony. This is going to be for farming. This is going to be for the rituals and magic and stuff. I know it's probably ultimately a minor nitpick, but as somebody who has played Civilization, for example, and Civilization generally has quite decent research trees, this research tree in comparison felt quite lacking. And I understand, there's quite significant difference between Civilization and this game in terms of likely even the budget that's associated with it, but I don't think that the layout, just the layout in general, it could be so much better, and it doesn't require Civilization 4 for Axis style budget, right? The crafting is basically how you make one unit into another, and it's, for example, how we made salad. The nice thing about it is you can set up, like I said, a lot of the stuff can be automated, which is really great, because one of the problems with a lot of sort of survival games like this that rely on crafting is too frequently they'll make you craft things all the time. Even when you're on day 22, like I am, for example, they would still force you to craft all that stuff. And I'm glad they don't, because that is one of the nice feelings of progressions, that you get to a point where you can just sort of sit back and then things happen automatically and you can focus on the bigger picture, which in this case, the bigger picture is the world map. But when you're starting out in the beginning, you don't have many colonists, you might want to micromanage them a bit more, and you can do that. If you click on one of them and then you click on priorities, you have the entire, well, this is the entire colony, but you access it individually. But you can prioritize what jobs they work. So for those who are interested in the micromanagement aspect, it's certainly there. But for those of you who actually would prefer to sit back and just sort of let the game play on its own, that is also an option, which is, I think, a great decision when developing a game of this caliber, because it is sort of a survival game. It's sort of a tactics game, a bit of a strategy game, and it's a bit of it has a very like 2000s aesthetic, a very classical look to it. So you might be wondering some of the things you can do around the colony. Probably should have gotten to this earlier. You can mine stones. You're going to need them. You can cut down trees. A lot of trees. You can grow more trees to replace the ones that have been cut down. There's clay to be mined. There are various set pieces like this rubble here, which contains scraps of medicine that you can sort of uncover and reclaim for your colony. You have metal mines, which metal mines can basically be built on top of metal resources. Yeah, it's just called metal resource. And then there are also mineral resources, which I haven't actually completed the relevant research to finish extracting yet. So I think that pretty much gives you a good overview of the game. I believe I covered a lot of the various aspects to it. The overarching mission at the moment is to investigate a Hellgate for me, because basically that's what the story is about. Sort of beating back the demons that have spawned. Because it's an end times world. So the idea is that the apocalypse is here and all the demons are entering the world in an attempt to take it over, I guess. And one of the things, you have these Hellgates, and that's apparently where all the demons spawn into the world. But what we need to do is investigate it. And I just don't have the technology right now to sort of take on this many advanced units. Like that's a lot. One thing I would say in terms of the units, the enemies, they don't seem as significant as I would like them. Like, you'll notice different enemies. Like, here's the imp versus the minor demon. When you're actually fighting them, you can take a look at their stats and you'll notice that they're quite subtly different. They don't feel like they deserved a distinction. Maybe it's just to add unit variety, but in my opinion, I would personally find it more exciting to have units that had sort of unique abilities that set them apart from one another. And I think that's just better than having slight tweaks made to their core stats. Like, well, let's say the minor demon has +2 additional attack than the imp does. Those are the kind of changes that people who look at spreadsheets might care about, but I don't think the average player, it doesn't really entice them to adopt different strategies for those enemies. I guess the important thing here is the option. Like, if you don't care about that stuff, the game is set up in such a way where you don't have to care about it. But I'm somebody who usually likes to dig a little bit deeper into things to hopefully glean a better understanding of how some of the underlying mechanics work, and those things can tend to disappoint me a little bit. But overall, my opinion of the game so far, 6 hours in, has been really positive. And I think it's unique enough in that respect because, the formula has been done a little bit before, but I think it's unique enough in its own respect that it would entice me to continue playing. So I'll leave you at that. There's not a whole... your colony can manage itself fairly well. I'm not really controlling anything here. They're doing their own thing. They're maintaining their farms. They're doing their research, sleeping when they need to, eating when they need to. And occasionally I'll tell them to harvest more resources, complete more researches, or go ahead and complete missions on the main map. So that is Judgment Apocalypse Survival Simulation. Like I said before, I would have shortened that name to Judgment Apocalypse, perhaps. But, it works. It is a survival simulation game, so that's accurate. Check it out if you want to. The link is in the description to the Early Access Steam Store page. And otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.